dinner, which is why I'm late again. Also, it's cold. Thank you for the lurk, Val. Hi, Vinka. Hi, Stubby. Hi, everybody. Whether you're lurking or not, happy Wednesday. I hope today was restful and or productive for you. For me, 50-50. For me, 50-50. It's not like super chilly, but I just kind of feel like being, I just feel like being a burrito. So I'm gonna be a burrito. We're gonna program some stuff and have us a good time. Hopefully everybody else is also doing okay. If you're not having a good day, you can say, oh, I'm wrapped up like a crepe. Is that why? Okay, let's see. I think I fixed most of the major stuff that was happening with Yarn Spinner 0.3 off stream, I think. But I'm looking for them on call, looking around by myself. All good. I know what the vibe is. Sometimes you just want to hang out. Oh, I completely understand. Um, I did the filler text for this thing wrong, so I should go fix that. By which I mean it shouldn't say Dan Dan Dan, it should say Dan Dan Dan. Because that was the joke I was trying to make. I was putting that in earlier and I wasn't paying attention. There we go. That's better. Um, right. So the last time I was working on Viral Core Busters, I implemented the Yarn Spinner 0.3 beta. Pardon me. In Viral Core Busters, mostly because I need to like test it before I try integrating it into other projects, and just kind of like get a sense of like what the actual thing is and how it works. I think this will work. I'm going to just run this again and remember where we left off because it's been a minute since I poked at this. Um, yeah. Ouch. Minus the fact that jumping is still really, really loud, we're good. So let me go fix that. Where is it? Audio stream. No, hold on. It's in the mixer, I think. Here, sound effects. I gotta pull this down, like here. All right, I think that should do it. I hope that should do it. All right, I forgot I need to fix the. I gotta fix this. Hey, Sabira. Nah, that's still hella loud. Damn. Hold on a second. Yeah, I gotta mess around with this a little bit because I think it's probably. State machine jump. Yeah. How you doing, Sabira? Hopefully well. I think it's probably because of some programmatic stuff with the. I think it's because of programmatic stuff with the way that I'm setting up the sound. Good. Good to see you. I'm okay. Had my right side tunnel surgeries today, just resting up and healing. But yeah, yep, it's game dive stream. But yeah, Caitlin, good to see you. So the thing I was trying to figure out was the jump sound. Here we go. Right. Jump SFX stop. I gotta set up. I gotta check a thing real quick because basically what's happening is that the bus value of this thing is not quite turning out the way that it should be. I think. So let me check this again real quick. And that's part of why the jumping sound is so loud, because it probably isn't being assigned to the right bus. A bus here meaning all right, hold that. Come back here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thingy that controls all the sound and music that's made to it. Correct. Exactly. Thank you for finishing that thought for me. But yeah, like I set up one for I set up one for the project, but I don't know if it's actually loading or not. So let me double check the rules for how you're supposed to name it in Godot. Because I would bet even odds that I didn't name it correctly, and that's why it's or didn't set this up correctly, and that's why it's not working. So that means that it's time to open up my Godot tab group because I have one of those for when I'm looking up stuff like this, so that I have stuff left over. Okay, let's see here. Look at the video real quick. Make sure. Okay, so I need to name it that way. Otherwise, it gets annoying. So default bus layout. All right. But yeah, the thing that controls all the sound. Yeah, basically, this is what we're referring to when we talk about an audio bus, right? The basic idea behind the audio bus is that we sort of can consider it a sound like a switchboard that our stuff is all connected to. So in this case, we have the master audio bus here, right? And then I've created two extra ones called music and sound effects. They both route through this one, but all the music gets sent to music, all the SFX gets sent to SFX. If you're wondering in video games how it is that like you can tune the volume of the music and the volume of the sound effects separately from each other, it's because like the game is using audio busing basically. Like the game has a setup in which any sound that's being output is being arranged to come to the bus and then that way avoid other stuff. Okay, here we go. So over here on this side, now it actually says SFX, which means that it should be going through properly. There we go. Are you using Fmod or different? I'm just using whatever Godot comes with by default. Like Godot has a thing where you can literally like create a new resource and do like audio bus layout, and then it's literally whatever Godot is running under the hood. So yeah, it's whatever Godot is running under the hood. So it makes my life a lot easier. I love Fmod, but it's not for everything. I've heard of Fmod, but I've not done a lot of work with it. I've done 2 game jam games using Fmod. I like it for a lot of reasons, but it's not pretty heavyweight. Turns the time. That's all good. Now, basically, the only thing I need to do is to get this thing to stop um, blinking in and out of existence whenever a line is finished. Let's see here. It's fine. It's this one, I think. So the only question is what function is this part of? Run the line asynchronously. So yeah, basically what I'm doing right now is just trying to figure out. I have a suspicion about why that's doing what it is. Um, but before I mess with that, I'm going to come back over here actually and poke out one other thing. If I turn this off, what happens? That becomes my question. Because I would rather not the lines like blink in and out of existence every time whenever I'm going to the next one. Yeah, that did it. I figured. So if I turn on the fade effect, but I do 0.5, I want to see something here. It's probably, ideally, what I'm gonna wind up wanting to do is split it. Yeah. So I don't want it to fade at all, actually. So if I keep that in, if I do fade down duration is 0, let's see what happens then. Okay, cool. That works. I no longer have to worry about that. Good. Okay. Now for this, I can just do see something here. Here's the idea. I'm gonna want and I just need to I just need to do one thing, which is to actually make sure that I have a sound. So audio. Yeah, we'll do audio SFX. It's this basically. But let me make sure that I have this right. Audio, and then I have to do the rest of it. Okay. By default, res audio is appended. So here's an important thing, right? This public static class extensions here, this is the thing that I programmed. I made it up. Not that it's like, oh, I'm the first person to ever have done this, made it up, but more like this is a feature of C sharp. If you do a file, right, where you have public static class extensions, it allows you to basically sit down and configure. I think or you can call it whatever else you want. Really, the class name doesn't matter so much as like how you define the stuff within it. There are ways to basically set it up so that you can sort of create extra functions in the manner that, like, Godot, for example, has like emit signal as a function that every node can do, right? By doing this thing where I did public static audio stream player make ASP this node, this whole thing here, it looks kind of weird, it looks kind of scary, but really the only thing that the only thing that I wound up doing was making an extension that makes it so that any node, right, can just do this dot make ASP and make its own audio source if it needs to. Right? And now I can do on character type plus equals audio clip ASP. Whoops. I want to do this. Audio blip ASP is not null here, no overload. Is there a thing that it receives I need to be careful of? Let me see here. Okay, no, it's getting angry. Let me see something here. On character. Event handler is empty. Okay, so then okay, so that should be doable. No overload for play matches that. Okay, then we can just cheat a little bit and do it like this. I think. And then we just have to do this. There we go. So let's try this out. Yep. It works. I used the wrong stuff. I used the wrong sound. You want this one. UI select. And then what we're going to do is if stop assuming what I want. Just give me the regular if statement, please. Thank you. Okay, so basically what we've done here is relatively straightforward, right? We have set it up such that if we go and we look, for example, at the yarn spinner, if we come over here and look at this line view, right? Now we see that we have like a thing that says use voice clips, right? So I could turn this on or I could turn this off. If I turn it off, then we don't get the sound effects when the letters are typing. But with the way that it is right now, we do. They're going to be very soft because I turned down, because right now it's mixing out to the sound effects bus. So it's going to be relatively quiet. but it works. And if it and right, if we wanted to be more specific about it, right? Um, so part of this is like letters per second, right? So if I turn down the letters per second, the text will display a little bit slower, right? And then that will cause the sound to to basically be a little bit less like poppy. Or I could do it like this, right? Here's the second option. So this is like the quick and dirty way of doing it, where it's like, yeah, just make a noise with every single time we reveal a character with the typewriter, right? Or I could do this. If use if why it's asynchronous. This is interesting. Ah, that's why. I see. Silly me. So, the reason why I was like, oh, hold on a second. This typewriter handler, you see how it says public, it says sealed partial, whatever here, right? But you notice how it says class, right? But we also have class here, right? This basically means that for all intents and purposes, the code that sort of makes up the typewriter is being dealt with separately from uh, is being dealt with separately over here, which probably means that what I should do is I need to. This is going to be the tricky part, right? But I think I can. I think I can get away with this because it looks like it will count those readies separately. So let me explain what's going on, right? A single C# script, like the one that we're looking at right now, right? It can have what are called multiple class definitions in it. A class in C# is basically, how do I put it? C# is a language that operates on the principle of object oriented programming. Object oriented programming basically holds that for all intents and purposes, you try to treat each like distinct thing that is in your game like an object with properties that are unique to it, right? So, for example, if you're making a game and you're like, this game is going to have a bunch of different fruit in it, right? You would do something when you're making a class for fruit, you would do something like public class fruit, right? And then in that, you would define public string name, like what's the name of the fruit, public string, like maybe like minimum size, maximum size, all that other stuff. The idea behind object oriented programming is that each sort of like distinct entity in your game, especially those that can fit under broad categories like fruit or enemy or what have you, right? Have their own classes that define basic behavior, and then you get more specific with things like inheritance and all that other stuff. As an example of this, right? I was I know I was just used food as an example, but here's a better one that will kind of make it make more sense. If you're making a game, for example, and you're like, I know that this game is going to have a bunch of different like vehicles in it, right? This is not so much that this is basically an example of a way that you would handle this. You're like, okay, I'm going to do public class vehicle. And in vehicle, I'm going to define that there's a variable for the move speed of that vehicle, right? Then I will have two other classes that inherit two other. You know what? Y'all already know what time it is because I'm sitting here chasing this out with my hand, and I'm just like, I could I could explain it like this, or I could like do the thing. So I'm gonna just do the thing. Y'all already know what time it is. And for once, it is not about math. We've done it. We've defeated the curse. This time, I am not breaking out MS Paint to talk about math stuff. So, let's talk about it. Not math yet. Now, it's not going to get into it. Not really. So, object oriented program, right? The basic idea is that you define, with object oriented programming, you define that a thing has certain attributes, and then as you like break off and branch into more complex things, you then split those things accordingly. So as an example, let's do the vehicle thing, right? So vehicle. We know that all vehicles have, right, a move speed. Let's say, for example, that these are the two, right? You're like, no matter what vehicles I'm going to make in this game, I know that they all have like a move speed and a weight, right? And I know that I'm going to have to track whether or not, right, can it fly. So maybe this is like a Boolean, right? Weight is an integer. Move speed maybe is like maybe like a float or something, right? Then vehicle, you can break that down into like maybe two other classes, right? Where it's like, you know, or three, right? We could do like land vehicle, sea vehicle, air vehicle, right? And obviously, so these variables would be passed down to each of these, and you can set them separately from that, right? Like land vehicle, can it fly is obviously false. The weight is whatever. You can then break down land vehicle further into like, you know, cars, but like, and a truck is basically like a variant of a car and blah 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 blah, right? So you could break it down basically like the cars, or if you want to be more specific, like two wheel, three wheel, etc. Right? Two wheel land vehicle, three wheel land vehicle, etc. So the idea behind object oriented programming is that when you have like you sit down and you sort of like construct a thing that has like properties, and if you need to, you can break it down further and further and further to get more specific things. You don't always have to go like 7 levels deep, but this helps. Another classic example that like a teacher of mine used to sort of demonstrate this is that, for example, right, you can have like a deck. This second example is more in line with like what I'm talking about here, right? Now, for each of these things, right, you could in fact do separate script files, and to some extent, I've been following this principle or something like it for parts of viral core busters already, right? So like if we look at player state intro, right, we see that player state intro inherits from player state base. Player state base inherits from state, and state is basically just like a regular old node. So if I were to break it down in the context of like viral core busters, for example, right, we have state, right? So player state base. It also happens to have its own like something of like player player state attack base, right? And as an example, right, for players, right, most of their like walking, running, jumping, etc., all basically inherit from this, right? So we have walk, so we have like idle, run, etc., right? And for the ones that are shared, I'll need to make like one player state idle and share that between bunk, curl, and voke, because for them that behavior is all the same, right? However, their attack states are all different, so that's why we have like Funk's attack state, Koro's attack state, etc. Right? So this is like one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is if you are in a situation like with a deck of cards, for example, right? A deck of cards is, well, composed of cards, right? But let's say that for practical reasons, let's say, for example, that you don't want to have to make you want to still have the separation between like a deck and a card, like, but you don't want to have to make like a whole new card.cs script for that, right? If that's the case, because you could do deck.cs and then make card.cs inherit, but that doesn't really make sense, right? In this case, you still have a connection that's sort of like this, where like a card is a part of a deck, but it doesn't inherit from a deck, right? Like a deck is a thing that is composed of cards. So you could do this by doing something like card.cs and then making like a class for decks that does do this, or you can do what is happening here with this async line view. I talked about this last week, but async line view is basically the Yarn Spinner 0.3 way of handling the dialog boxes in terms of like, hey, this async line view thing is responsible for displaying character names and the text that's associated from the yarn files and all that other stuff, right? That's the job of this async line view. However, and this makes sense, right? The way that they wanted this to be set up, and this makes sense. I wonder, can I do this? Okay, that's fine. So don't need that. That's fine. So, basically speaking, and this is the reason why I'm doing this really quickly to help sort of demonstrate this, right? So here's the deal, right? The asynchronous line view is basically this file, vcb async line view.cs, is one script that has 3 different class definitions in it. So you can put, this is like a tricky thing about C#. but tricky only in the sense that it's like you can do either, and technically either is all right depending on the way that you want to handle it. But to make your life easier, there are times where you want to put separate classes in separate C# scripts and times when you don't. In this case, and I agree with this line of thinking, the whole thing with the asynchronous line view that displays the text and all that other stuff for Yarn Spinner, the Yarn Spinner team was like, it does not make sense. They were like, it does not make sense to have this set up in such a way that like typewriter and the other thing are all in separate C# scripts. They were like, or C# files. They're like, that doesn't make sense. Not really, right? All of these things are related to how the line view is displayed. So we're going to have all three of them share a class, right? Sorry, we're going to have all three of them share a script, but they're going to be in different classes. So VCP async line view, temporal markup handler, and typewriter handler are all three separate things, right? They're all three separate classes that are contained within this same file. So each of these things are like distinct entities into and onto themselves, but they are just not split up between three separate script files. And like I said, to me, that line of logic makes sense. I think that that's relatively sensible because there's no real reason to have them separate because they all kind of work in tandem with the asynchronous line. They're still counted as separate classes as far as the programming stuff is concerned, right? Which is why when I was trying to do what I was doing over here a second ago, it like this doesn't work because use voice blips is not part of the typewriter handler class, not the way they wrote it. Instead, it's over here in async line view. So what I have to do in order to make this work is not really that complicated, all things considered, right? I need to grab this stuff and I need to move it down into the typewriter handler class, right? And now that I've done that, this stops getting angry at me so much, right? Minus I need to do one thing that I forgot to do, which is here we need to do and reach. And then we just need to get rid of this. So here is the deal, right? Okay, good. It looks like none of that went terribly, horribly wrong. Okay. Now, here's the other thing that we're gonna do. So, right? So, what I did here is relatively straightforward. If we are using voice, every second character play so the whole point of that, the whole purpose of that is that now, right? We now have a way of more directly controlling the actual output of what we get, right? In terms of like when the audio blips play. So, because I don't like magic numbers are a no-no. We don't like those. Personally, I don't. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do int audio, or better yet, I'm going to put it up here, right? Export. I'm going to do int audio blip interval, and we're going to set it by default like 8, right? And now right? So the magic number thing I'm talking about is that as a general sort of like point of, as a general sort of like rule of thumb for the way that this works. So we can't directly configure this thing. And that's okay, right? Because we will have a way to at least we'll have a way to make sure that the typewriter handler itself knows whether or not to play the audio blips from like a future setting in the actual game. We can configure that relatively easily, right? But the main thing is that if I need to like adjust that value, right? So 8 is too slow because then, as you notice, it doesn't sound right. So in this case, we can come back over here and we can just say, okay, audio blip interval, we really would like that to just be full, right? So in this case, we can't even see these anyway, so we're just going to do, so instead, I'm just going to grab these, do this, and I'm going to just do this one, I'm going to do this one. We don't need exports because it doesn't work that way. I'm going to make these variables public just so that in case for whatever reason I need to like get access to them, I can, but I'm going to make sure that they can only be set I'm going to make sure that they can be that they've been gotten, but that you can't like I can make sure that you can get them, but that you can't set them. Okay, there's one thing I want to check though. Okay, so then we want That's better. So then we can do. So the reason why it's doing that is because I haven't messed with sealed classes before, but I went to Google it real quick and they're just like, hey, when I say they, I mean Microsoft. So Microsoft is the one that like writes the standards and everything for C Sharp and the way that it works. And so Microsoft's like, hey, if you're using like a sealed class, don't make things protected. They're either public or private. So that's why it was like getting fussy with me about it. Because this class is sealed. I don't really know what the sealed keyword does because I haven't used it before. But when I went to go Google, hey, why is this thing coming up? They're like, hey, you shouldn't use protected you shouldn't use the protected keyword in sealed classes. So private will work fine for what we're doing anyway. The main point is that um I don't want like typewriter handler stuff to be accessible otherwise. We haven't had break. So I'm gonna just keep working on the thing real quick and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, cool, 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 cool. This works. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time and just like check on a couple things real quick. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So Ads are done. Okay, let's be about it. So basically all I've done here is set up a thing where, because initially the first way that I did it was that I took, this is the way that it works. This typewriter handler right here, right? This typewriter handler has an event that sends, right? A signal that is emitted each time a character is revealed during a typewriter, right? So basically, the first time I did this, I set it up just so that I was like, hey, whenever the typewriter like does a thing, right? Whenever it makes like a funny blip sound, connect to that, right? And play the sound effect, which is fine, except that it meant for every letter that got revealed, right? For every letter that got revealed, it would play the sound, which basically just makes it like a loud or just like a very solid wall of blips one after the other. So what I've done here instead is, let me comment these variables actually. Should this line a voice blips not? Should this line type? And so right? Okay, right. And now, for example, I can come over here and do some public void change value. So, in fact, let's just flat out always put one here. And all we really want to do to make it even like less likely to like cause shenanigans, right? So now, really what I can do here. Now, really what I can do here is now I can configure it back again over here. I can do. So when I say over here, I mean in the context of I can go back now to the top level, or I can come back over to the async line view, right? And in the async line view, if I can find region, see specific variables, and here. Now do export hint. But basically speaking, the reason why these are private down here, theoretically, if I really wanted to, I could make these public and leave them public, but it's a general rule of thumb for me personally, try to set it up so that variables can't just be changed randomly by that shouldn't be touching them, just because it makes my life a lot easier. Toggle whether or not right. So let's be more professional. Toggle hide writer audio. Use type audio. So I prefer to have it for certain things where it's like, hey, the possibility that I might need to change this value. I want to personally, I prefer to do it with functions like this for situations where I may need some external way to like reach and handle and change that thing, right? personally, this is the way that I prefer to do it for this sort of thing, right? Because I don't want, for example, player state intro to randomly be able to get a hold of like the typewriter and then like change that accordingly. I prefer not to allow that. It's fine in theory. I don't necessarily have to do it like this, right? Like if I wanted to make my life easier, I could really and truly just make it so that these aren't private. Just use typewriter audio clip interval, and then I could manually change it that way. But for certain things, I'm like, no, there's certain information that should be read only from certain other scripts. And that's just to make my life easier, because there are things where it's like, I don't want people to be able to, let me phrase it. I don't want myself to accidentally directly change that value when I shouldn't be doing it. So I prefer to run it through functions because it's a little easier to track down functions and be like, hey, if I have the change happening in a function for certain things, then if there is an error or something else goes weird, I know I can track down the function and be like, this is the only spot where that's been changing. And it's easier to keep a hold of. Changes the interval at which type on typewriter character reveal typewriter audio audio. It's really tough. Changes. Actually, I should do this. I shouldn't do it. Now, right, basically at this point, if there is ever a point at which I need, like, make the typewriter, like, do certain things now, I can do typewriter dot whatever, right? I can do typewriter dot whatever and get access to being able to change the typewriter audio sound, toggle the typewriter audio at all, etc., right? I have ways of being able to do that now. And by putting them onto functions like this, theoretically, I also have the ability to make yarn if I wanted to make a point at which, like, yarn itself actively changes any of those features. I can add extra stuff now to those functions to make it possible for the actual yarn files to also change that information. That's another reason, at least in this case, that I would want to use functions that are made specifically for changing those values rather than just leaving them as public variables. Okay, so last but not least, right? Okay, Stubby, I'll give it to you this time. I am in fact going to talk about math for half a second, because I have to explain how this works. I elided over it for like half a second, but I want to talk about this bit of math here because it's important. And it's not something that comes up very often, right? So, let's talk about modulo division and what that is. Dread it, run from it, math arrives all the same. I'm saving this as saving that one as I'm saving that one for later to talk about this. So, modulo division, right? So modulo division, or just mod, which is represented in C# and a lot of other languages by like the percent sign. So, right? Four divided by 2 is what? Two obvious, right? Like 4 divided by 2 is 2. Here, with this, it's dividend over divisor is the quotient, right? Let me actually spell this correctly. Dividend over the divisor is the quotient, right? This is the thing that gets covered in math. With modulo division, you are not looking for the quotient, right? In modulo division, you're looking, the result that you get from it is the remainder. I don't remember the exact terms in this case. So in this case, right, for modulo 2, here, right, you are not looking for what is the quotient, right? You're not looking for, so with this, you're looking for how many parts you divided. When you're doing regular division, you're looking for how many parts you divided it into. When you're doing modulo division, you're looking for how many parts are left over. Basic, right? So, 4 modulo 2 is what? If you are looking for the parts that are left over from this division, of 4 modulo 2, what parts are left over? Are there any? Or, if you want me to put it another way, does 4 divided by 2 have any remainders? Yes or no? If we look, right? Not really, right? Like if I were to do long division for a second, the old-fashioned way, right? I know they don't teach long division. I know they don't teach long division like this anymore. So forgive me. I'm going to be a dinosaur for a second. 2 times 2 is 4, right? There's no remainder. So 4 modulo 2 is 0. So all mod division does looks. So mod division discards the quotient and looks for the remainder. And this is how, if you are careful about how you do this, right, you can use modulo division in order to actively say every x of this thing. So every 4 of this, every 6 of this, every 8 of this, right? You can use the modulo to deliberately set it up so that a certain thing happens every x occurrences, right? So in this case, we come back over here and we look over here, right? If the visible characters for the typewriter, right? If that modulo, some value that we give here, right? This is why it's like 2 is like if it's 2, then basically if on every second character, the audio blip will play. If it's 4, like it is here, visible characters has to be either 4 or some multiple of 4 in order for this condition to be true. So 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, 20th, etc. If the reveal interval was 2, it would be 2nd, 4th, 8th, 10th, 12th, so on, right? If I wanted it to be even an odd number, it still works, right? Because the principle here is that with the mod division, I should minimize this so y'all can see what I'm talking about, right? So if visible characters is 4 and our reveal interval is 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1, remainder 0. So we throw out the quotient. We don't care that like it went in one time. We don't care about that. We only care about the remainder with modulo division, right? So if text.visible characters is 4 and our reveal interval for the typewriter audio is 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1. We don't care about that, but the remainder is 0, which we do care about because we're doing modulo division. So it'll play 5 modulo 4. There's a remainder of 1. So it's like, no, we don't, then this doesn't play, right? So modulo division is useful for that sort of thing, right? I should take this and move this actually. So I'm gonna take this bit over here, cut this bit down here. This is where this is going. And then I'm gonna just grab our friend the brush and just point this back up to here. And then we can say So, right? So you can use a for loop to do this sort of thing too, right? But only in certain circumstances do you want to use a for loop to do this sort of thing, right? There are other circumstances where really, like, that's not important and it doesn't really matter, and you don't need a for loop for it. That's when you would use modular division, as an example, right? Because very simply, right, like I was demonstrating over here with the visible characters thing, anytime, as long as, for example, typewriter audio reveal interval is double equal to 0, right? It's like, okay, then this means that if this is 4, then if visible characters is 4 or any multiple of 4, then that's when the sound plays. And it sort of spaces it out for us without us having to do other stuff. Now, there are ways, for example, you could make this be instead like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, if you deliberately wanted to make it so that the offset is based more on like not having a clean division in. But in most cases, there's no real purpose to doing that necessarily. Most of the time, you just want to set it up so that, at least in most cases when you're using modular division, there are obviously going to be exceptions. Most cases that I use modular division for are things where it's like I need something to happen every 4th, 8th, 12th, or whatever X occurrence, but I don't have any structure or reason to use a for loop. That's basically what this is for. I'm gonna save this one. Yeah, it occurs to me at some point that I should probably learn the way that like new math is being taught. Because long division, I know that they don't teach long division the way that I learned it anymore. I know that they don't. I prefer it, but I understand why that might not be the case anymore and why they might have just like stopped teaching it. But when you understand how long division works, right. So for when I do this sort of thing with modular stuff, this is the way I prefer to do it. Where I just have it checked to see if there's no divisor. Sorry. Pardon me. What I mean to say is I usually use this sort of thing to check if there's no remainder, and I work with that logic instead. Because it just makes my life easier. Then it's very easy to go, right, I know it's only happening every X whatever, because this is the thing, right? So, yeah, useful in this game. Alright. We have audio stuff working now, which is great. Now I want to do portraits. Like, portraits are like the last thing I want to do before we get up out of here. We're coming up on that time, so I gotta try to do it quick. Okay. So we can just do that. Yes. Huh. This is actually incredibly useful. I didn't know about this. So when you declare this thing with a question mark, right, it basically makes it so that it's, at least as far as I understand it, when you do it with a question mark, you're basically setting up this thing so that it can be considered nullable, right? And now Godot has the ability to now take in this thing and use is instance valid and check if the thing is nullable or not, right? And in this case, right, any assumption that it's not nullable or that it's not null or empty means that we can roll with it, right? Which is surprisingly useful, actually. But we'll go with it, sure. So we have that. And let's just do public. We're gonna do get private set. Well, in this case, I'll do protected just in case. Because I don't think there's ever going to be there's probably never going to be a situation where I have to make another type of line view just in case, and I happen to need a portrait. We're gonna do that just to make my life easier. Just in case I do have to make one and we need to have like the portrait like actually like doable, make my life a lot easier. So otherwise, like I'll just be miserable and upset if I wind up needing it later and I have to add it. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, a lot of the time people tell you like try not to think too far ahead in your code, and that's true. You shouldn't try to like think too far ahead of what you actually need in most circumstances. But knowing what I know about like the way I need to be able to do stuff, sometimes in my case I like to just catch that a little bit for myself, just to make my life a little bit easier. So now we're gonna do here. And here we can do, for example, yarn command change, right? This public. Thank you so much for the resub, Squishy. I deeply appreciate it. That is 13 months. Over a year. Thank you, thank you. I'll do the hide for you. How you doing? Hopefully well. Because this is going to be the hard part, right? Because I have to make sure. I could just do this. All right. Oh boy. Alright, I'm gonna have to try it like this. Not something I like doing very often, but this is basically the least painful way to do this. We're just gonna have to, let me not try to be clever. If I think the latest sub overlay is for. Yeah, probably. Hold on a second. There's a very good chance that I might have forgotten to, hang on a second. Probably some shenanigans with, a recent update, I think. Let me see something. Not events. I need... There might have been a thing that changed with some of the variable names. So let me see something Okay, give me 1 second. Yeah, I think it might have. I think it's a thing where, oh, never mind. Apparently, going in and saving it made it fixed it. Lol. I was like, wait a minute. I went to go look. I was like, let me go page through this other stuff, and then I think I hit the save button at some point, and it was like, no, it's fine now. There we go. as rights. Okay, there we go. And that should do it. Yarn, man. Okay. So, all this rigmarole and all of this hullabaloo is basically setting up two things. First and foremost, I'm setting up a way by which to actually load portraits into and out of the appropriate spot in the actual yarn spinner dialog runner. But now I have to set this up now. All right. So over here, under the view control, we have the dialog box, the speaker name box. Now I need to add two things. So portrait 1. Portrait 1 control node, make our lives easy, and right now we're going to anchor it over here. And then as far as the actual layout and transform goes, we're just going to do this. We're going to have it expand out to there. I guess this is technically part of the UI, right? So create new folder. Oh no, let me make my life easier. Right now, just create new folder, portraits, and I just gotta go dig up the ones that I was using for Vowel Core Busters beforehand. So let's go dig up into the Unity files in the background so that y'all can't see it, but I'm loading them up right now. We're getting ready to. Resources, sprites, UI. And now you can see that I have, those are all there. So Now, right? So now all I really need to do is, now that I have this, very simple, right? I need to open up the actual yarn script for this level, right? And now, basically speaking, I need to I have two options, really, actually. I could set this up so that I have to like manually specify it every time, or since I know what the current speaker's name is, I have another option. Let me see if I can figure out something. Actually, I want to make sure that I have this idea. I can probably hold on. Yeah, I gotta rethink this. Okay, so I do have that, so I can do this. If this is greater than 0. So if we have a character name text, right? If we have that value and it's greater than 0 when we call on change portrait, then here's what we can do. String file to load equals. Hang on. Okay, so here's what we do. I got this. I got it. On this. So you don't even need this. Yeah, it's gonna get a little bit yelly at me for a second, but I'm working. add this bit, this. Okay, so now we got this one. So I slightly changed it here because I realized that my logic was a little bit. Okay, cool. So this now should work in theory. I just need to, basically speaking, I gotta set up a couple of things first. So in the actual yarn script that I'm working with here, oh, we have another ad. Damn. All right, I'm gonna let the ad finish before I finish this line of thought. Ads are almost done. So it's like I just have to stop for a minute and like gather my thoughts. So while the ads are going, I'm gathering my thoughts a little bit. So I can explain the thing I'm trying to do. Okay. So what I've done here right now is that over in regular Visual Studio, I've set with this yarn command thing here, I've set it up so I can call this stuff, I can call these functions from the yarn spinner script that controls the dialogue for the stuff. Right? Actually, I'm gonna do one thing better to make my life a little bit easier in terms of data storage, and I'm going to do up here. I already had a region. I'm going to do region BCP specific variables and region. Up here, this, and then over here in the ready, say on bar, or rather, I should say. Just making life easier. Now I can come down here and I can just literally yank out that part and yank out this part. Just one thing that makes my life easier. Do BCB yarn bar storage. BCB yarn bar storage. Alright, cool. Got that, that's sorted. So, basically speaking, the way that I'm setting this up right now is so that I can do this, right? We can do name, which is change speaker portrait. However, I need to also specify, if I remember this correctly, I also need to specify which node is responsible for this. So I'm going to do line view name. I remember. I just need to go check one. I'm like 80% sure I have this right, but I could be wrong. Yarn spinner. Name of the node you want. Okay, so that's what I thought. Okay, cool, I remember that correctly. Are you winning? I think so. So, basically speaking, this is the way this works. Because of the way that I had this set up, right? Because of the way that I had this set up, right? The command here is given as change speaker portrait. Cool. Hi, buddy from Key Item Stream. My name is Sean, and call me that, Rush Shade. I make games, I play games, games make do, basically. I am currently working on a side project of mine in Godot called Viral Core Busters. It is it's a 2D platformer. I'm using models. I'm using 3D models for it, though, just because that is a thing I've wanted to do for a while. What games and demos will we check? Hi, hope you're having a great night. Yeah, I think I managed to get this thing to work without causing things to break horrendously. It came basically just in time for me to see if I set the clown car on fire or not. So, yeah, I was explaining just a second ago that Death Howl is this seat taken with the demos we tried out. Nice. If you have time and you can elaborate on what genre those games are and what they're about, that would be super nice. In case I have any lurkers that might be interested. But yeah, we're basically literally about to test out whether or not I broke the functionality for getting portraits to display. So, let's hope that I didn't mess that one up. Alright, here we go. I need to minimize this thing over here, and then you need to also minimize it. Go away. Okay. So either I got this amazingly correct, or I messed up this logic entirely. We're gonna find out. Yeah, something broke. I think. Yeah, we got one break. Can't call, command, change speaker portrait, incorrect number of parameters. That's what I was afraid of. We're almost there, but something is a little bit off. So basically speaking, what it's complaining about, I'm gonna minimize this first if I can. So, the thing that it's yelling about, it took me over here to come yell about. A few of my usual views are game dev, your stream with perfect drop off, everyone not to. Yeah, I do game dev streams every Wednesday at like 6 p.m. Eastern time. Friday and Sunday are like actual gameplays. It's like me playing other games, but like Wednesdays are good for game dev streams. So, basically what's happening here, and I was worried about something like this happening, which is why normally I prefer to do this a different way. The main issue that we're running into here is that, so over here I said, do this, and it's taking in line view main as a parameter. So the reason why it's yelling is because like you're saying change speaker portrait with this value, and I'm like, that's not what I'm asking you to do actually. So I need to double check and make sure that I wrote that correctly. Okay, let me think here. Okay, we have an alternative. So, but yeah, thank you, Key Item, for dropping your community off with me. I will be on for a little bit longer. I'm going a little later than I normally do because I started a little late, and I wanted to knock out this specifically. So, here's what we're going to do. We need a plan B here. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do this. So, initially, right, I had this set up the old-fashioned way that I used to do this sort of thing with Yarn Spinner, and the way that they recommend that Yarn Spinner recommends that you set up this sort of yarn command thing is that if you are using static functions, like if this said public static void change portrait, we'd be all Gucci. But in this case, we're not. And so there's a certain like there's certain complications with the way that this works because this is not a static function. So what I'm going to do is instead, I'm going to take the other methodology that they recommended for getting this set up, which is over here. We're going to do dialog runner.add command handler. I believe this should be a node. And then according to this, it says that you want to do the command and then the function. So we're going to do here, the command is going to be change speaker portrait, change portrait. Hold on a second, I gotta check one more thing to see that I did this correctly. Okay. So add command handler. But it has to be a node. Add it. Okay. I gotta think about this. I gotta think about this a lot now. Think for a second. So basically speaking, what is happening here is that I have to figure out how to make sure I attach this to something accordingly. I can't convert from void to that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the thing that's suggested. So I gotta put on my thinking cap first. Nah, still angry. Okay. Let me think this through. Dialogue. Oh. No. Not method group system action. Okay. Almost got this. Okay. Okay, so this has to match. So for right now, I'm gonna just leave that open. Because it shouldn't be too big. Change the speaker motion. Almost. Cannot. Hang on. Can I do it with a parameter or not? That's not. Okay. How do I get a thing look? That's the question. Back in. Okay. That. Man name. I need to know how to add params. That's the only thing that I think I don't know how to do, which is going to be a problem. Okay, and for right now, we have to like leave them a truth. I have to go dig and ask a question about it. That's a not now. It's a not now thing. Okay, I think this might work. Let's go it. Let's see. The only thing I'm worried about is parameters. Nah, still busted. Okay. Incorrect number of parameters on change speaker. Still not. So, this is a 50-50, because on the one hand, it means that this is being registered. On the other hand, it's not registering the correct. There's still something that there's still something I've messed up with. Oh, okay. Okay, so it's basically still the same. Then, what am I not thinking? Something I'm not thinking. Making my brain itch. Something that I'm fundamentally misunderstanding as far as this works. I'm not sure what it is. It's logic. This is basically the same thing. Night, Stubby. Okay. Because this is okay. Where's the... I should check where the async line is. Probably part of what's possible. It's right here. So it should be this name. It should be. Let's start. Let me just take my time. So if it doesn't find the resource file, it just gets annoyed. Which makes sense. I thought I had that covered, but apparently not. But this is better progress than where I was last time. So async line view 560 is where it had that issue. So right here. Okay. So let me do another. Go check if resource is. Okay, there we go. That's fine. There we go. I want this. I'm so happy that Godot has a thing for that. Basically, the error that I was getting, and it may still not work, but the error that I was getting was basically going, hey, you can't, like, tell us to check if this thing that you load is null or not. If it doesn't, like, actually exist, it doesn't work like that. So it may still be broken, possibly, as far as, like, error stuff goes, but, Alright. I'm just trying to see if I actually get anything major. Okay, I don't, but now I can't continue. Why is that? Oh. Hang on. I don't think that would cause it, but let's see if that might be the reason. I don't think that would cause it, but let's just be sure. Because for some reason the button's not clickable, and I don't know why. So I'm gonna take that out and see if that does change it, then that means it's... Okay, no. Something else is going on. Can't click the buttons or something else. Okay, that's fine. can't click the buttons or something else. Come over to the dialog runner. Let's make sure the continue button, okay, continue button is set to that thing. So why is that being weird? Please stop being weird. Should be fine. I'm gonna go check the code, see if there's a thing where I messed up. Continue. Okay, HTML, convert to VB code, not a thing I have to. This part, that's fine. Okay, come up here, control, continue button. Okay, so now the real question is, why can't I click? Oh. That's why. I sat and I had a hard think about it for a second. I'm like, I did put the portrait right there. So if the portrait is above that, there's a good chance that it could be blocking it. Yeah, that's why. Alright. You've done it. It works. So the reason why it wasn't working is because this is the thing that I didn't realize. Because I wasn't thinking about it until I really sat and I thought for a second. With the way that Godot layers and orders stuff in a HUD, right? Like you see how we have line view main over here, right? Then we have view control here. Then we have portrait 1 control node. Then we have dialog box and speaker name box, right? Here's the thing. This order from top to bottom is also the rendering order of where certain things are. And this text direct for the portrait, basically speaking, what I need to probably do here is for the mouse, I should, focus. The main point is that because I put this thing, I put the portrait down at the bottom, below the speaker name box, but on like the same sibling level, just like further down in the hierarchy, it was covering the continue button, basically. And so I wasn't able, basically like click events weren't able to like click events couldn't pass through the mouse thing, right? So like you see how it says filter here, right? Basically speaking, right? This is ignore. Properly speaking, this should be ignore, and by proxy, I think anyway. Let me test this out. I'm pretty sure this will probably still break if I do it this way, but let's see. Because if it was that, I'm pretty sure that's why that was happening. So, yeah. So, two things. That ordering thing I was talking about is still very valid here, right? You remember how I said to y'all a second ago that it's like, right, depending on what order these things are in vertically, that determines the order that they draw in. In this case, right? Or if I'm going to leave this down here, the thing I have to do is make sure that both of these things, for the mouse, that they both ignore. Or pass should technically work, right? If we look over here, it says the control will receive mouse inputs and mouse event button inputs if clicked on. So here, I want the portrait to ignore both of those things, right? So in this case, right, I can theoretically leave this down here if I want to. Now that I've checked this, you see this over here? It says Z index, and I changed it for the portrait one control node. What this basically means is that if the Z index for this thing is -1, right? And the dialog box and the speaker name box, on the other hand, are at Z index of 0. -1 is less than 0, so what should happen now is that now I can ignore that order thing that I said because it's not actually true. Okay, I realize why I botched this mistake horribly, or I botched this explanation horribly, so I'm going to explain differently now. Let me correct the thing that I said before because I was telling a bit. In Godot, the way that the order that things are drawn in is controlled, there are two ways in which you can do it. There is an object that allows you to sort of do like a bi-layer control of what order certain things should be drawn in for like a HUD. There's that. Or if you want to do it on a more singular level, you can mess with the individual ordering of any given canvas item. Canvas item is a type of node that belongs on a HUD. And it's a little hard to tell if you're like red-green colorblind, but things like line view main, view control, dialog box, and the things that kind of inherit in it, they're all canvas items, which means that they are made to be displayed on a 2D HUD. And so, anything that is a canvas item has a thing called ordering, where you can set an individual Z index that controls what order on your screen, or what order or what layer it draws on. So basically consider it like this. The Z index is kind of like going this way and this way technically. So the Z index is technically going like forward and backward in terms of what order things are drawn. So the dialog box and the speaker name box, if you look at both of their orders, the Z index for both of those things is 0, right? So the dialog box and the speaker box are on the same level here. Because I forgot to change the portrait control node, it was also on 0. So it was like basically on the same level as the dialog box and the speaker name, right? But when I set the portrait one control node and I took the Z index, I set it to -1, what happened is that now the dialog box and the speaker box are here, but the portrait is rendering behind them like this. And now the continue button is uncovered and I can do all this other stuff. That's the first part, right? The second part is, just to be sure, right, I want to make sure that the control node and the text direct here both ignore mouse events, so that when I click in the very area of where the texture rect and the control node are, it pretends like they're not there, so it's not blocking the continue button. And the reason why Godot just doesn't like do that by default is, let's say that you have an image that you want to be able to mouse over, right? If you want an image that you want to be able to mouse over and have respond to the mouse, then you don't want to have it like ignore that by default. So what Godot does is it says, okay, right, most regular control nodes will take in click events, and then text direct nodes, like the image that I was using, they will also do that, but like, we will just pretend, if we have to, that like, what's the word I was looking for? Sorry, I lost it. Right. Basically, it's set up so that when you have direct like this, which is used for like showing images, it can and will process when the mouse is like hovering over it, just so that you can set it up so it knows, oh right, yeah, you are hovering over this thing, this is important, I should be able to track that. Godot will assume that you want that until you tell it you don't, because you know it makes more sense that way, because you might have an image that you want to be able to mouse over and respond to like mouse over stuff, right? Do I have a way of scaling this thing down? Let me see here. No scale. Okay. I have, and I'm just gonna do a thing real quick before I scale this down. Just to make my life. So trying to see if I have a way to like scale down. Okay, so let's not mess with that. Because basically I'd like to get this and deliberately like, so basically the main issue that I'm stuck with, let me minimize this, is that this loads in cleanly, but because the original art is really, really big. Getting it to downscale correctly is a pain in the ass, is the simplest way to put it. I think I might have to try to see if I can mess around with the way that it's stretched. I don't know if that will actually work or if it's gonna still make it big, but it still displays the portrait though, which is the main point. Like that part works. So I'm not stressed about that. It's mostly just like a matter of like I gotta get this thing to like size down. So, like you can see, right? Like this works fine, right? But now it's mostly just a question of like I gotta like scale down. Like I gotta get the texture itself like scaled down. Yeah, I might have to just like manually size it down to like something a little bit smaller to fit. Because I did. Because basically, right? Alternatively, I could say, okay, no, it stays at this size. I could cut it down to like there. I could do. No. Like I could do this, right? On. Like basically I could do this and do it that way, but I think it's gonna wind up scaling it back up to the same size anyway. If I try it. I'll try it, but I think it's gonna give me the same problem. Where I basically just undid exactly the thing. Maybe. Let's see. No, better. Yeah, that'll do for now. So basically, the thing that I did there, for all intents and purposes, was that I scaled down the image, but I scaled down the actual texture rect by half, and then I made the size bigger to compensate. And that's basically, that's like the quick and dirty way of doing it, for all intents and purposes. Where it was like, I took like the actual size that it was at, and then shenaniganed around with it till it turned out right. Yeah, and then this will do for now, right? No big deal. This works out pretty much exactly the way I was looking. So, that pretty much turns out exactly the way I was hoping for. Cool. And that works. Alright. Baller. Okay. And then the rest of that is, I'm going to have to gradually go through this file and update it to match the newer conventions of whatever I'm doing with our core busters. But we've got portraits working. They work, right? Even if I go and like switch characters now, right? If I come over here to like the level manager and I switch characters to Funk, it'll still work. At least it should if I didn't break everything horrible. Damn it. $5.44. What did I mess up over there? Oh, that's why. I know why. I was sitting here going, what did I do? It's like literally the only thing you changed was the thing with halt wait time. Or start wait time rather. Yeah, that should fix that, I think. That's the only thing I changed between those two things. So I was like, what did I do? It's like, that's the only thing you changed, so that has to be the problem. Let's see here. And then even if we switch this now to Voke, it will work the same way. Basically, the only thing that I'm going to have to do is, in order to make sure that I can like actively control, it's one of those things where basically speaking now I have to basically go resize the pictures to make sure that they're at the appropriate position and everything. So yeah, as you can see, like portraits and stuff like work fine. So we've got that part. So, and that's pretty much where we're gonna hold game dev stream. That's we did it. We in there. So let's jump up and get our way going. So thank y'all for coming by. I appreciate it. Next streams, Friday 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we're playing Street Fighter 6. Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we're gonna be doing the next part of the Tower of Kakatsuchi in SMT Nocturne. It is the last dungeon that we're in, basically, and we got a couple other things that we want to like knock out and get done. So yeah, we're basically gonna kind of just like knock out. We're basically just gonna like knock out the next part and the next boss of SMT Nocturne. That's the plan for Sunday, and the next one is gonna be more game dev stream stuff. As for where we're going to go raid out to tonight, let me go figure that out, because I'm pretty sure that technically the person I'm thinking of going to go see is probably still on cooldown, so I probably can't send y'all over there, but I'm gonna double check anyway just to make sure. So 7th cooldown list, which means that it was updated literally a week ago. Okay. I don't remember who we went to last time. I know it wasn't. Okay, so 5th. So whoever we rated on the 7th, whoever we rated on the 9th, that pushes those down. So I need to take these two, push these down. I think it was, I want to say it was GDQ we went to go visit on the 7th. Because that would have been when Back to Black was still going on. And then I don't remember who we went to go visit on the 9th. But I will say that for today, we are going to go visit. I forget who we went to go visit on. I forget who we went to go visit on after that stream was over. It will probably come back to me at the funniest possible moment. We do have ads coming in like a minute, so I'm gonna let ads finish, and then I'm gonna do my closing spiel, and then we're out of here. Okay, ads. I know you want to start soon, ads. I literally stopped because I know that you're going to start soon. I know. I've been watching the timer. I know. There you go. About to say. But yeah, once ads are finished, we'll head on out over to Twisted. But in the meantime, while they're going, um, for people who want my funny MS Paint sketches of the things that I explained, I do save those, and I do. Um, I might start like just tweeting them, not tweeting. God, that glad I go to Twitter, which I don't use anymore because ew. Um, the wrong way. I may start posting them on Blue Sky as like companion pieces to like doing as companion pieces to like post stream stuff, just because it's like, hey, this might be useful for people who I got distracted by looking at something and trying to debate if it was something I was going to have to intercede in or not. Anyway. Love how easily distracted. Look. Sometimes things happen and I go and look and I see people talking about a thing and I'm sitting, and if I'm in a position where I have a reason to weigh in on it, it's like I have to like actually sit and wonder about it for half a second, because moderator brain does moderator brain, and it's like I'm thinking really hard about it right now, because it's like it's one of those things where you are sitting and thinking like, is it a tone policing situation that's happening here, or is it something else? And that's what I'm debating about right now. I'm not going to get further into it than that, but it's like, it's me sitting here going like, I understand where you're coming from, but there's also like a tone policing thing, and I'm just like, you might just want to like have to hold that for like a second. I'm gonna think about that one. If I put my foot in my mouth, it's gonna cause a problem. So I have to think on that one. Anyway, putting that to one side. Nightbot was kind enough to handle two of the things that I was going to talk about. So, if you want to hang out with us when we're not doing stream stuff, and you can live with making a Roblox account that you don't give a crap about, you can join us on Guilded. Basically, the reason why we don't have a Discord and why we use Guilded instead is mostly because Guilded doesn't charge for certain features that Discord does. Discord, I can't say even that Discord has more bullshit, because something happened with Guilded where they basically require you to have a Roblox account now, and that's just a mess. But there are things that Guilded does that are less annoying than the things Discord does, and that's why we're there. So you can join us over there. If you want to know more about Munity, which is the indie game studio that I helped co-found, you can join us over at munity.games. That's community without the COM in front of it. That has links to our various social medias, as well as our Patreon, which has both a free tier and a paid tier, which you can join to help like support us. And like basically anything that you contribute to the Patreon goes to like traveling funds and things like that. And if you want to play Shootlancer, which is the game that we're working on, we have a demo up on our itch page for Windows, Linux, and Mac. And then last but not least, as for me, links for me, I do game analysis and design articles over on my NeoCities blog, which has an RSS feed you can follow. I'm gonna probably try to port some of my posts from co-host in Medium over to there at some point. I just need to figure out how to like actually get my stuff taken down off of Medium first, so I can repost it on NeoCities, because I would prefer to do it that way. Stream VODs are up at youtube.com/@sjgames. My Ko-Fi, if you want to support me in this stream directly, but don't want to give money to Amazon and Jeff Bezos, you can do it that way. I usually prefer getting monthly Ko-Fi subs over Twitch subs, because Twitch subs require me to reach a certain like payout threshold before I see any of the money from Twitch subs. Throne, if you have yeah, I'm doing the thing. Okay, right. Finishing the thing with the links. Sorry, I had to say the thing. I had to say the thing. It was eating me alive. I had to say it. Anyway, Throne, you can use that to help like actually with Throne, you can use that to like gift me things anonymously, whether through crowdfunding or through like one shots if that's what you feel like. And then my card has all my social media links, but primarily I'm on Blue Sky. Okay, now that I got the thing out, and I said the thing because it was important to say that thing, so So yeah, we're gonna go hang out with Twisted. Right now, they're doing Dark Souls Convergence mod, I think. So it's like a modification for Dark Souls 3 that changes some stuff around and some shenanigans. They were working on that before they were doing hosting duties for the Back to Black speedrunning event that GDQ did these past couple days. So, with all that said, we're gonna go hang out there. This is the raid message. Just SH those raids. Go on your favorite emotes. They don't have to be my emotes. Do whatever emotes you feel are appropriate. XYZ. And I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, don't go outside if you don't have to, be excellent to each other, not to bigots, racist, terrorists, sexist, anti-queer folks, or Zionists. These are reminders. Black Lives Matter, trans rights are human rights, reproductive rights are human rights, Palestine, Sudan, the Congo, New Caledonia, and Haiti must all be free. None of us are free until we're all free. If you can't do, if you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure how to handle what's going on, I'm not sure how to deal with all of these things, then start in your neighborhood, look at what's going on in your neighborhood, and kind of look at what's happening, and kind of go from there. That's my thing. I'm a little stuck in that particular situation because, like, right now I'm trying to like juggle like getting work, and so I can't do that in the way that I would like, but I try to do what I can with the resources that I do have. Thank y'all for coming by. I'll catch y'all whenever I catch y'all. Stay safe. Until next time. Deuces.